Hi, I'm Kengo. I'm also Kengo. I can go too. Mwah, 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 mwah. Oh, it turns out we were all the same the whole time. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I was Trigger completely. Mwah, 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 mwah. Oh, but wait. Hey, wait, no, I'm Dark Trigger. Wait, what do you mean you're Dark Trigger? I'm Trigger. So you're Trigger. I'm triggered, man. I'm triggered. I'm triggered. Mwah, 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 mwah.
This is actually typical Monday night for him.
I don't know, it just works that both the hacky sacks are the same thing.
Just wait until you see him with all the Spider-Man figures. Woo!
I'm just doing some web design.
Oh, see now she's getting closer.
Come on, give me the two Kengos back.
No!
Don't let him touch those balls.
No!
What?
Creep?
But I'm just talking. Okay, anyway. I'm the Kaiju no Kami with...
Are you sure? Because you seem like you're insane.
With...
Cruellica Kain.
And...
Silver Quill, who's usually the most Freudian of this group, but here we are.
I don't know what's going on anymore.
I'm just sort of waiting for the drugs to kick in.
I can go for Freudian too. Get it, Kengo? Yeah! I can go Ultraman too.
Apparently you can also go Little John.
Yeah!
So Ultraman.
What? So we're here to talk about Ultraman Trigger. Episode 12. The 30 million...
Okay!
Year...
Hope.
Miracle.
Miracle. I like hope better.
So is that like the $6 million man, but like way, way better?
No, I think it's actually way, way worse.
What?
Yeah, he makes boomers look old or young. But anyway, this was part 2 of the two-parter that we left off with last time.
Wait. Part 2 of the two-parter.
Yes, part 2 of the two-parter.
I mean, it could have been part 2 of a 3-parter.
I understand that, but it sounds redundant to say part 2 of the two-parter.
I'm just getting
the finale of a 2-parter.
I'm just getting my little John Madden on. The winner of this game will be the team that has the most points.
What?
I don't know why I'm here. I think I need to leave.
Okay, so Ultraman Trigger episode, I almost said 30. 12. I don't know why.
Because it feels like this has been going on for a while.
Kengo is still fighting Dark Trigger in their little punch battle. That turns out that it's also Kengo. And they're all like, oh, you were me the entire time.
Which leads us to the greatest metaphysical question of all. Why are you hitting yourself?
All I know is, I'm like, what?
So who was Trigger before he was Kengo? Kengo was Trigger the whole time, but there was a Dark Trigger before there was a Trigger. And now he's fighting basically his old body. Did Kengo just commit suicide?
I don't know. I'm totally lost on this whole aspect.
So I kind of feel like he's his own grandfather.
Well, that's what I was thinking of. The Kengo, you're your own grandpa.
Oh yeah, and the gift of eternity. Did you get a receipt for that gift? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about... Oh god, we are going to talk about that.
Yeah, so Dark Trigger is destroying the city, and our useless band of Guts Select try to stop him, but fail almost immediately. And I'm still waiting for frickin' Nurse Desi to transform into a dragon form.
Is it supposed to?
Oh, it's going to.
The design hints at hinges and... But I just can't see it transforming to anything cool.
It's gonna be a Chinese dragon, just like Ryuseo.
Still having a hard time seeing it.
How do you know this?
Because it's the shape of a dragon.
I think it's the shape of a ship.
It has a head. It has a tail. The tail is the cannon. The head is the bridge type thing.
See, I don't think it's going to transform.
It's going to transform. I'm telling you, it's going to transform.
Honey, I hate to break it to you, but if it does transform, you know what episode it's going to transform at, right?
24.
Yep. And do you know when it's going to transform?
The last minute.
Yes.
It doesn't
Are we
matter.
making a 24 parody? Ding, ding, ding.
It doesn't matter. When it transforms, I'm going to say, ha ha, I told you so.
And I'm just going to say, God, that's really lame.
And I'm going to say so.
In fact, now I'll say,
I don't care.
Now I'll say it, even if it's like the coolest transformation, I will lie just to spite him.
That's what she does with the Gito.
I know. I hate it on purpose. I actually enjoy it, but I hate it because of him.
Also, forgive me if I'm in a darker mood. Since our last recording, I've been to a funeral, so, you know.
But
And it's cold and slightly rainy out.
why are you in a bad mood? Because you can't have funeral without fun.
I can't have it without an ear either. I have 2 of those. Wait a minute, does that mean funerals are denied to dead people? That is not true! See, you are full of false equivalence. I was a pallbearer, goddammit.
Oh, did you have the Undertaker with you?
That would have been something.
Oh, yes, my Undertaker!
Is it wrong?
Oh, he's going to kill you, Hulk Hogan! Oh!
I don't think you sound like that, but
Well, that's not what the Undertaker sounded like. We were
that
both
was Paul Bear.
we were both thinking WWE, but I was thinking of like the Undertaker. I have no idea whose groin you kicked to get that voice.
That's the Paul Bearer dude.
Okay, well, someone kicked him in the paws. I tell you that much.
Well, I can honestly say he didn't sound as high pitched.
Well, you know the last time I heard Paul Bearer speak was?
Probably the 90s.
Yes.
But it's kind of funny that I guess we witnessed several deaths, quote, quote, in this episode.
Did we, though?
Kinda. The gift of eternity. Okay, you know what I'm thinking of? When Yuzare is asking the Eternity Core to give Trigger the gift of eternity. I'm thinking of the 2 sons in Roman myth who ran their mother via chariot all the way to a grand temple. And they died that night, and that was the greatest gift because they've been rewarded with a happy life. And I'm like, that is a crappy gift.
Really?
I would have gotten them a gift card. I don't care if it's
I
shit,
thought
it's
that
still...
clearly the gift of eternity was some weed, man. They all got stoned.
Well, they all got stoned, but like Trigger, why are all of them getting stoned if Trigger can just, not get turned to stone and give them a good smacking?
Well, I
was very confused when they started turning to stone. And then Trigger continues to still move, slashing at them. As you saw, he was...
I was confused during this entire thing because, I don't know, it just seemed like, how did he go from Dark Trigger to Trigger?
And how were there 3 triggers?
Well, that was because 2 of them were from the temples.
Haven't you heard of a triple barrel?
But I don't get how he went from Dark Trigger to Trigger just because Kengo says, oh, it was me the entire time. But I'm just completely lost on this episode.
Presumably, Kengo is the reborn spirit of Trigger, except that the body's not really dead.
But how did Trigger turn good?
Arbitrary.
That's the thing, is we never actually saw Dark Trigger turn good. Because that means that Kengo always went back in time to turn Dark Trigger into Trigger, so Dark Trigger never actually
reformed,
turned
good himself. But what was
basically, think of it like trying to think. Okay, Cruellica. I think it was Cruellica who broke one of the monsters up in Kira Major into 6 pieces. Did it with Kira May Green as well, where you had all the emotions in those different bodies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, for the monster, one of those got destroyed. So they lost that particular emotion. How I'm figuring this is when Kengo went back and was fighting against Dark Trigger, what he took out was the essence of the Giant of Light. So they basically split into 2 beings. And no, I'm not giving you back the goddamn balls.
Ooh, my.
But that's kind of what I pictured it as, is that you now had Trigger and Dark Trigger as two separate entities.
But then where was Dark Trigger?
He was stoned. He was stuck. Because when she did the Eternity, they kind of just flew away to Mars.
But that means there was no actual... I don't know. I'm just lost.
Well, to clarify, Trigger pushed them away from Earth and scattered them across the galaxy, it seems, or universe. I'm not sure which. He landed on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Self-fulfilling prophecy. But you know what? There's always a dark tone when they do pull this.
Mm-hmm.
Free will doesn't exist.
Well, no. Free will... Whenever they... I kind of feel like the whole going back in time and changing something is the ultimate MacGuffin. Because you're not actually fixing anything, you're just redirecting. It's kind of where you get that butterfly effect paradox. Because one action creates these branches of all these other actions. So in doing what they did, all they essentially did was essentially destroy an entire other universe of possibilities.
I'm not sure. This seems to take the approach that time is constructed so that even your attempts to change the past are woven into the tapestry.
Mm-hmm.
So in a weird sense, maybe you are making choices, but at the same time, those choices have already been made and woven into cause and effect. Ergo, you think you have free will, but at the same time you've already made the choice?
Well, that's kind of how I look at it. And I was kind of hoping for more, because the first episode of the two-parter definitely led us down a path where you're like, okay, they're not tying it into a neat bow by the end of that first episode. So you're like, okay, if we're going to go into a next episode, are we going to do a little bit more story development on why Trigger became good, so to speak? Because the question is, was Dark Trigger was he like Belial, essentially, but turned good?
Well, Dark Trigger doesn't have much of a character, period. I can forgive the strong silent type, but here's the thing. Most of our Japanese entertainment amongst this group, for me, has been Kamen Rider and Super Sentai.
Yes.
And Kamen Rider, I've always appreciated that they blurred the lines. Super Sentai is a very young, idealist perspective.
Mm-hmm.
There's light and there's dark. There's good and there's bad. Right and wrong. Kamen Rider blurs the line a little. The writers are often using the same power as their enemies. And it's more about how they choose to apply it, not whether the power itself is good or bad. And then you get things like Build, where you learn, hey, I'm the devil scientist. Oh, I wasn't a good guy, but I'm trying to be better now, or maybe, kind of going from there. I don't really know where Ultraman falls in the demographic, but I'm looking for it to be a bit more mature in its perspective than just good or bad. Giants of Dark bad, Giants of Light good.
Well, and the odd thing is, from the series I've watched for Ultraman, they aren't like that neat little box all the time. Because I know we make jokes of it for Ultra 7, but Ultra 7, even though he's inherently a good guy, his response to defeating these monsters is hella worse than the monster itself was.
What does he do? Does he do
like when
dance?
he rips the arm off the one monster, then slits its throat after he beats it with its own arm.
Ooh.
So, basically he does his own victory lap by doing what he does in fighting games, where it's just overkill. And then when you go down the line,
it's never over until they're killed.
But even Tiga, which is the anniversary series that we're trying to represent with Trigger, that series, while it was geared towards kids, it was like that fine line of hitting kids, not literally hitting kids, but getting that demographic, but still making it mature enough that adult audiences who grew up with Ultraman prior to its cancellation could get into it because it represented both types of audiences. And when we watched Nexus, that was very similar. And even when we got to like Ginga X and a few others, while they started to do the more sillier elements because of the fact that more modern audiences and crap like that, it still had more of a higher caliber. I kind of feel once we got to Rube, and obviously we have not seen Taiga, so I don't want to reference that because I don't know, but Rube, and then
Well, I'd say even Jeet.
Yeah, probably. Well, I like Jeet, so
I know you like Jeet, but I'd say Jeet is where it probably really started.
yeah, Jeet, and then the subsequent series started to go down what a lot of the problems that we have with Sentai are, where it's going very kiddie and it's taking for granted its history. And that, I think, is really the problem, because you've seen this series for what we've watched and some of Zet's. And Zet was very similar in its narrative.
There's also the frustration to once again tied into the larger entertainment we consume. I mentioned when we were talking about Revice, the concept of integrating the shadow.
Yeah.
That that often in the dark we find power. It was kind of telling that when Dark Trigger split into the three triggers of light, they got their asses kicked.
Yes, they did.
And in some ways I appreciate that. Like, the villains always seem strong because they have no moral limits. They're able to go full out right away. A protagonist, heroic protagonist, is usually, well, it's kind of hard to throw a punch out of compassion. You have to learn to take those limits off. And thus, I can see why Dark Trigger seems more powerful than our standard affair Trigger. But then, the power to become this new upgraded form doesn't come from the fact that he accepts he used to be a giant of darkness.
No.
Doesn't accept that the strength he had then...
He didn't earn it. ...is
part of him. And that if he doesn't need to be afraid to take the limits off. It's an external power gifted to him that he doesn't even... Well, he even admits he can't control. So, and then there's a Dark Trigger that he just destroys. And it feels like you're missing a very important part, that integrating your shadow, your darkest self, the parts of you of which you might feel ashamed, accepting those, integrating them into your awareness, is a part of becoming a more complete person. It's becoming whole, not tainted, not diminished, not less than perfect. I think it's becoming more true to yourself. By killing Dark Trigger rather than integrating him, you're basically trying to pretend that a complete self is only obliterating the worst of you.
Well, that's a problem I've had with a lot of recent hero shows in Japan and in America, from what I've seen, is this whole, especially when they're aimed at younger audiences, is there's this whole belief that you can only be good, that you can forget about everything else in existence, you're only that good person. And it takes for granted that, like you said, to be a person, there's so many different facets of what makes up one individual. Like, we joke, so you're aware, that he's our moral compass of the group.
Terrifying, right?
Yes, but...
I mean, here, I make this joke. I like this joke. Ooh. You gonna hit me again? Ooh, she is!
But anyways, we make the joke that he's our moral compass, because compared to the rest of our group of friends, you are like the nicest and brightest person who's good. And the rest of us are just like cretins for the most part.
We are forsaken.
Exactly.
So his new form, Glitter Force, or
Wow, you just wanted to completely...
She's saying nice things about Silver Quill. Stop her.
yes. Quickly, we don't want his audience to get a false sense of oh my god, what?
With a positivity.
Yes. But
Kindness,
anyway,
respect.
okay.
Grandeur.
Oh no, I just think we need to get moving on some other stuff. So we've got
But Cruella didn't get to finish her thought. Like talking about how awesome I am.
But basically, I wanted to say, because you do put on this hyper-realized presentation for the camera, because every time we turn on the camera, it gets crazier, so. But anyways, you demonstrate that there's the good and the bad. And I think that's the frustration I have with most shows, because 4Kids is notorious for doing that when they bring over properties to the US. And that's where my frustration is when you see it in the shows that we really gravitate towards, and then we're getting other properties doing the same thing. It's like, well, what's the point? And how is this fair to audiences? Because you're giving them this unrealistic expectation that if they're not always good, what are they going to feel about themselves? And I understand I'm probably making this a whole hell of a lot deeper than it should be, but when you put it out there into the ether, people are going to criticize it. Yes, you can continue now.
Okay, so we have...
So anyway, I was thinking about how I never get to interrupt people. It feels good. Oh, my first major interruption, it tingles. I have this warm feeling in the cockles of my heart, and I don't even know where cockles are.
Yuna, being freaking idiotic. She's like, he goes, Kengo! Kengo's Trigger! Oh, what? Kengo is Trigger? Like,
okay, that's how people exclaim things.
like yes,
In
you
Japan.
just don't you.
Look, I was sorry. Did you roll your eyes when Solid Snake would repeat something? You better answer no, boy, because we're going to have problems otherwise.
Probably, I don't know.
Okay, there was a no in there, but not that no. I mean, but let's face it, Solid Snake made a career of just repeating the same line.
But with a different inflection.
Different inflection.
Different inflection?
Different inflection.
Oh my god, different inflection.
Different inflection.
Well, that's why Japanese sentences typically have that ka afterwards, which is their way of saying, right?
So having a character repeat a line in disbelief isn't the worst moment. What are we?
I don't know.
Why are we assaulting with phones again?
But no, I didn't find too much wrong with it. It's not like the one episode that you show us constantly that 15 out of 100 people die. That's 15%. It's like, okay, that's a no shit Sherlock comment.
Or how about the three-headed dragon has three heads?
Well, yes, those are dumb. But when you have a character saying, Kengo is Trigger, and then the other person is like, Kengo is Trigger? That's shock and awe.
Actually, speaking of Metal Gear, I just need to do that. I hear it's amazing when the famous purple stuffed worm in Flapjack's space with the tuning fork does a raw blink on Harakiri Rock. I need scissors, 61!
Where's that from?
That's from Metal Gear Solid 2. Actually,
is that?
I am in really bad shape financially. I paid money to my ex-wife as part of our divorce settlement. Among other bills, I just had no choice but to make you pay for lunch the other day. I'm really sorry.
Is this when they were infected with the E virus and just can't talk right?
I was
Okay,
a North American fall webworm in my past life. Ah, those were the good old days. What were you in your former life?
Were they high?
I actually know the story of this, but it's tangential. So, I mean, if we're talking about redundancies, how do we feel about saying part 2 of a two-parter?
Yes!
That was the point. Anyway,
I think you're spin doctor.
we finally get Sparkle form, Glitter Force form,
Sure.
So now I'm just thinking that Japan's going to
What?
become the shiniest town ever.
Okay, but wait, it gets better. While we're watching the episode, he then says, "Oh, it's like Twilight Sparkle."
And I'd be like, don't you be dissing Twilight Sparkle.
And I'm thinking not the pony kind, I'm thinking the vampire one.
Well, it's Dale. He's not trying to kill himself to get someone to like him, though. Yeah, she's supposed to be a role model for young women. Bull a shit.
I agree.
So no, I don't know. I mean, it just feels like usually when I see a character upgrade, get a power form, it's the debut, it's triumphant, the theme is playing. This felt kind of underwhelming.
Oh, it was very underwhelming. And I'm sorry. I understand they're giants of light. So light does sparkle. But why did he need a new form? Why?
Because it's modern Toku. They gotta sell that merch.
They got to sell that spinny blade thing that, honestly, I'm kind of surprised it didn't like light up at each turn.
Mm-hmm.
Only on the third rotation, which
Yeah.
basically means it can win a full 360. So can there be you've got red, blue, and green, right?
Mm-hmm.
The primary additive colors.
No, it was red, blue, and purple.
red, blue, and purple.
For his 3 different forms.
Because I was wondering if the violet was like a secondary color.
No, because his main color has been purple and red.
So I was just wondering if there's a color pattern here. I don't see it yet. Can the blade turn like yellow and green then?
And be like a flower?
It'd be beautiful. It blossoms into your death.
Well, and admittedly, and maybe I just couldn't see it from the angle I was sitting, he didn't look all that golden or sparkly.
Or powerful.
He did have gold, but he wasn't all sparkly.
But the gold was very muted then, because it didn't look, in my
It was
expert
gold.
opinion, it didn't look all that fancy. And when I expect a new costume that's going to have glitter and sparkle in its name, I want fancy.
Okay.
I want fancy.
What you're trying to say is it wasn't.
I want fancy.
What you're trying to say is it wasn't shiny for you.
No,
It was a muted gold. It was a matte gold, not shiny gold.
it was very glossy is what it's called when it's shiny. But still, one thing I learned from that job. One thing I learned. But anyways, I was really frustrated by the fact that we're going to have a form called glitter.
I'm not against that.
No, I'm not against it. I like glitter. I actually really, really like glitter. Maybe that's because I enjoy drag queen so much, but I enjoy glitter. But it was not sparkly like glitter is.
Well, that's probably because they didn't want to get glitter all over all the miniatures.
Oh, that was a very, very minor detail. But while glitter form is fighting Dark Trigger,
Mm-hmm.
in the lower right corner of the screen, there was the frame of a semi-destroyed building. Almost a perfect square. For a minute there, I thought they had gotten the viewfinder in the shot from a camera. Because it just took my eye off the action.
So, that was the other thing. So we have Glitter Trigger shoots his beam, all 4 giants fly backwards. We get then the 3 main ones that just, okay, we need to go.
They ditched Dark Trigger.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
shit.
ditched the trigger, and I for a moment I thought they forgot the Dark Trigger was even there, or that he was destroyed in that blast. Because I'm like, oh, is Dark Trigger dead from that blast? Because what? So I don't know. This episode, I liked it better than a bunch of the last few episodes we've watched. But
I was admittedly very disappointed because I didn't feel like there was any payoff to anything, because we were even going as far back into the past to see the original
We
Yuzari.
didn't learn anything about the ultra ancient civilization.
The ultra ancient civilization.
Well, we didn't learn anything about the civilization. We didn't learn anything new about the
Yuzari.
We didn't learn anything new about the Giants of Darkness. We didn't learn really anything about Dark Trigger. We didn't understand why Kengo did what he did or how he came back because of the MacGuffin. I heard you calling my name. And then
my name.
whatever, Heisenberg. And then I don't feel like there was any growth for the rest of the characters. Like, they're trying to fight Dark Trigger because, obviously, Ultraman.
No, Gut Select is utterly useless.
Well, I was kind of hoping it could have been their time to shine, to really demonstrate what makes them...
Well, yeah, because they don't have Ultraman there to save them, so finally we can get these characters having to actually win, and that's the thing I think they should have done. This should have been at least one more week. Kengo should have been stuck in the past and learn more about the ultra ancient civilization.
That sounds like something a kid would say. Oh, my civilization, my story is ultra ancient. It's so cruel.
And this episode focused on Gut Select having to actually show why they're the specialists in this field.
Well, my civilization's mega ancient.
Like the plane,
Mine's giga ancient.
Little Falcon got knocked out pretty quickly.
Little Falcon, Guts jet or Guts wing? Yeah, Guts wing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Way better ship. Its bullets did something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just so frustrated because, as I just knocked off, like, a ton of different things that they didn't do, it's to the point of, like, okay.
And next week's we're back to filler next week.
Well, at least the alien will finally get to
Do something.
Manta?
Metron.
Alien. I mean, okay, the one thing was Jafar was very ready to accept that they had to fight Dark Trigger. Everyone was like, no, it's Trigger, no. And he's like, nope, shoot it. Start shooting it.
Well,
dude is ice.
well, and, like, so you have Schizo doing the flight and trying to fight Dark Trigger. She fails clearly. Then you have Dave, and Dave just... Okay, I feel bad for calling him Dave any longer because he doesn't represent Dave any longer.
He's got the energy level. Doesn't scream so much. Maybe if we can see him sneeze 5 times
he
in
hasn't
succession.
done anything.
Well, I think his name is now going to be Dumbass. Because I
have a hard time with names, so I might just stick to Dave. But
No, that's fine.
I have a hard time because God knows I'm not going to be able to pronounce their actual Japanese names.
I've given up on trying to figure out what their actual Japanese names are.
Nanase is Schizo. Yuna is obviously...
Not say it ain't so.
Well, I know Akito is Edgelord. Only because I've heard his name like a million times.
Edgelord who's like, I will fight you with this
But-
gun.
Yeah, for going back into the ultra ancient civilization, we didn't learn anything that we didn't already know.
Oh yeah, well my civilization's Quinta ancient.
So this series,
My
We're
ancient
essentially
civilization is Terabyte Agent.
we're essentially halfway through the show at this point, and I don't feel like we've learned anything that we didn't already know in the first few episodes.
Honestly, I feel like I'm more confused based on this two-parter. Like, it felt like it took steps backwards. Like, we gave you all this information before. Now we're going to throw in things that kind of contradict what we were talking about. So, if you decipher what's going on, can you please tell us so that we can be able to continue writing the rest of the series?
Please message Kaiju no Kami at creativitybydesignllc.com.
But yeah, where the hell was the ancient civilization?
They're all dead.
It was just...
Well, my civilization's infinite ancient.
My
just Urizen,
ancient civilization is
Yuzari.
eternal ancient.
Or mine's
Alright.
eternal plus 1.
And
Mine
then-
is Turtle plus Infinity.
So then we have the ending
No,
where
I'm telling Mom.
I'll tell Mom. I win!
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, no.
This,
Oh yeah, no.
I didn't think I'd have to get the chest loop picture back.
No. Oh, Kengo. Can you go down?
Marcus!
Can you go down?
Marcus Noah!
Well, there we go. Kaiju's true name, and I'm no longer the most Freudian of the group.
Okay. Anyway.
Oh, people who watch his videos enough know how great character.
So at the end we have
I quit.
we're restraining order. Get all the energy from Dark Trigger.
Which, I mean, they've hinted at that since the opening credits of every episode, but, I mean, my only question is, was this accidental or intentional?
Well, and I wonder because you always see that shadow on his face of like an alien creature, and we've never actually seen him transformed. So it makes me wonder, has he always been Dark Trigger? Like maybe when he blasted off again like Team Rocket, maybe Dark Trigger went into like this essence and took over this kid's body before his planet got destroyed.
Maybe.
He could have always been Dark Trigger, and if it wasn't for what was going on with Carmella, that when she was attacking and turning Trigger into Dark Trigger, that the essence was freed.
Ooh, maybe he's part of the Mucho ancient civilization.
Oh my god.
No,
don't
I'm not.
you dare.
I'm not. Oh my god. Restraining order. I've been Dark Trigger the whole time.
Oh my god.
The fact that he's using my character's face on those.
It's just because it's two of the same.
Oh,
so.
give me back my face.
Oh,
Boom,
God.
boom, 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 boom,
I
boom,
get-
boom, boom, boom. All right, so that's going to be our end of our Ultraman Trigger
That should have
review.
ended minutes
Boom,
ago.
boom,
It's
boom,
kind
boom,
of surprising
boom,
how disappointed we all are in
boom,
this.
boom, chicka, wow, wow, boom, boom, boom,
Some
boom,
more disappointed
boom,
than
boom,
others,
boom,
it
boom,
seems.
Some apparently have lost their flippin' minds.
Can go higher. No. Until next time. Bye.
Oh, well, before we say that, please.
Oh,
so
yes.
if you like what we do and have not already subscribed, then shame on you. You should subscribe because this is the craziness that you're going to see. Maybe a little too crazy this week. And then you can always also like our video, comment, or click any notifications that YouTube has you clicking to support us. You can also support us on Patreon, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Kaiju no Kami. And our website is creativitybydesignllc.com. And you can support Silver Quill on Twitter and
forgot the shop.
YouTube at MLP Silver Quill. And he always does a lot of fascinating videos and things like that. He will have a shop soon, and we currently do have a shop for ourselves, which you can go to creativitybydesignllc.com/shop, or just look in the comments section. And maybe next time we record, he will not be in the video.
Boom.
No, keep going. You were doing great. No, you were going great guns. Keep going. You know what? It's the Cruellica show starring her. It's Cruella.
Oh, yes, Cruella. I love myself. Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful evening. Hopefully, he will be back. I kind of have a feeling for our next review. He will not be a part of it.
He's in timeout.
Angry Birds.
Oh, God, help me.
Bye now.
Bye, everyone. Oh, my God.